This is adamberkowitz. I wanted to let you people know what went down the other night here in Katsrin in the Golan. So many people have reached out to me in the kindest way and connected with me, and I try to connect back, but the response has really been overwhelming. So I wanted to let you know what happened. But let me put it in context. 10 years ago, we moved from Gush Etzion up to the Golan. Gush Etzion is about half an hour south of Jerusalem. It's in what's known as Judea, near Bethlehem. And there are a lot of Palestinians that live there, which means there are a lot of terrorist attacks, a lot of theft. There was a time when you needed 3 alarm systems in order to buy a new car, because they just had to take the car and drive less than 5 minutes. They're in the Palestinian Authority. They could register their cars with the Palestinian Authority, their stolen cars. Fact. We move up to the Golan, there's free-range cattle, there's which you can't have in any other part of Israel, because if you raise free-range cattle anywhere else, they will get stolen. I have a friend, he raises honey because he puts the hives out. Anywhere else in Israel, the hives get stolen. So, yeah, that's what we moved up to. My wife survived a terrorist attack through a miracle 23 years ago when she was pregnant with our oldest, our daughter. And after hanging in there for 11, 12 years, we said, enough already. We did our part. So we moved up to the Golan. There are no Palestinians up here. There are Druze, Bedouin, Circassians, Christians, all kinds of people, but no Palestinians. So we moved to Katsrin, which I moved to because it's very much like, if you walk around, it looks like the town I grew up in New Jersey. Very pastoral, a lot of trees, a lot of grass, a lot of parks. It's really very suburban. It's very nice. And we wanted that for our children. So we've been living here for about 10 years. And October 7th happened, and it mainly targeted southern Israel, and they've always been getting the rockets, and by us, nothing. It's very small town, very quiet, very relaxed. So there were a couple of, I think 3 or 4 code red sirens or color red sirens since October 7th. At least one of them was a false alarm. One of them was a drone attack where we actually heard the Air Force shooting down the drones before the siren went off. The first one, we packed go bags and put them in the bomb shelter. We have bomb shelters to the left and the right of us, 50 yards away from our front door on either side. But after the first alarm, the security establishment said, no, we want you to just stay at home. Why? Because when they built these homes, the big threat was Syria, which is less than 10 miles away from where I sit. Syria was a very serious threat. They nearly overran all of Israel, and they did overrun the Golan in 1973. But Syria has been fighting a horrific civil war for the last 12 years, so they have no resources to focus on us. But when they built this town, they built it with lots of bomb shelters, and the original houses, one of which I live in, and most of the houses in the older neighborhoods, were built out of bomb shelter grade concrete, reinforced concrete. The roof is a meter thick of reinforced concrete. It would take a really serious direct hit to break through that roof. So these are essentially bomb shelters, these houses, which makes putting up pictures and any kind of construction in the house really, really difficult. I literally have a jackhammer to put up pictures. So now the government tells us if there's an attack, shelter at home, shelter in place. Also because the the time between the siren and the attack is usually less than 10 seconds. So we don't really have time to make it to the bomb shelter before the rockets hit. That being said, we've been pretty much sheltered. Like I said, not so far away from us, half an hour drive, is Kerchmona. They were voluntarily evacuated, which means some people are still there. Mostly the old timers who are like, I've seen worse than this. They're pretty awesome people. They were getting hit several times a week really hard. A few people were killed. This is Hezbollah targeting. They have accurate rockets, not like Hamas, targeting specifically civilian infrastructure and civilian houses. So we've been pretty sheltered, pretty quiet. I used to say we live in the safest place in the world for Jews, not just in Israel, but in the world for Jews. I would not want to go back to New York. I would not want to go to Los Angeles. There are places which are friendly to Jews, but that's quickly disappearing. That all changed last week. On Friday, I was reporting the news. All last week, I was in the hospital with my son, so I was pretty disconnected from the news. But on Friday, I was writing the news, and there were warnings that there was an imminent attack from Iran on Israel itself, which would have been a first. It's never happened before. Within the next 24 to 48 hours. Now, you have to understand, Palestinians are always declaring a day of rage, which rarely materializes. The Arabs have been threatening us since before there was Israel. But on the other hand, a threat is a threat, and you have to listen to your enemies. So we took it seriously. Shabbat went out. There were a lot of airplanes overhead, which also has been true since October 7th. The Air Force has been flying overhead pretty constantly, which is why we're not getting so many rockets, because they're pounding the heck out of Hezbollah. So there were a lot of rockets on Shabbat, and then when Shabbat went out, we're doing our after Shabbat thing. And I actually did an interview with a friend of mine, and at the end of the interview, he WhatsApped me. He said, you should check the news. And I checked the news. I guess it was around 9:30 at night. No, it was much later. I'm sorry. It was 10:30. There were reports drones are on the way. Iran had launched hundreds of drones at Israel. Now, it's kind of weird. You're sitting here and you know they're coming. You know they're coming. You can hope that the Air Force will take care of it. But we're talking hundreds of drones. You don't know what's in those drones. And that's kind of scary. And then we hear that they launched ICBMs. And we all know what ICBMs can carry. They can carry nuclear weapons. Iran has nuclear weapons. I know when I'm being lied to. The UN has been lying about the Iranian, and everyone has been lying about the Iranian nuclear program. Thanks to Obama, and thanks to Biden, Iran certainly has a nuclear weapon, and they launched ICBMs at us. You can't think of Iran as a backwards nation. They have ICBMs. They have better drones than America. And they launched ICBMs. They launched cruise missiles. So we were about to get hit. There was a bit of a... We heard bombs falling, rockets falling around our city. Closer than we had ever heard them before. 2 weeks ago, there was a rocket attack, and it fell a couple miles from Katsrin. We heard the bombs, but it wasn't scary. These were rattling the windows pretty hard, and it was very concerning. And I knew that it had fallen out in the fields surrounding the city. And so and when I heard that the drones were on the way at 9:30, I told my kids, um, "Get into your clothes. You're sleeping in the living room, which is on the first floor. So we had 2 floors of reinforced concrete over our heads. You're sleeping in the living room in your clothes, with your shoes and coats nearby." And my daughter was very upset, and I'll admit it, I've served in the IDF in a combat unit. I've been under fire, but not with my kids sitting next to me. I was scared. Not scared. I was deeply concerned. I was not handling the situation incredibly well. No one was. We were all scared. We packed our go bags, put them by the door with food, our medical kit, change of clothes, that kind of thing, next to the door. And my wife said, "Look, we're not going to make it to the shelter by the time the bomb hit." And I said, "You're right." So at first I was like, "Okay, get ready to run to the shelter." And then after talking about it with my wife, I had to swallow my masculine pride and acknowledge she was correct. We're going to shelter in place. We're much better off. But I wanted the kids wearing shoes, not flip-flops, not Crocs. I wanted them in shoes because we might have been walking out through rubble. I got the flashlights ready. We were all set. My daughter actually went to be with a friend who had a bomb shelter in her house. 12:30, bombs falling outside the city, louder than I'd ever heard them before. Deeply concerning. My boys fell asleep. My other boy is in Naharia, and I called him. "What do? You're on the phone with your son. He's several hours travel time away, and his town is hearing sirens too." Not a good feeling. It was not a good feeling at all. We said our I love yous. My other boys went to sleep in the living room. And we stayed up, waiting for everything that was in the air flying towards us. Round about 3 o'clock, my wife and I managed to fall asleep. I was sleeping literally in between my two sons. On the floor, they were on the sofas. 4 o'clock, siren goes off. Boom, my head goes up. Less than 5 seconds later, the bombs started falling, the rockets. And these were close. It sounds very different. When they're falling a mile or two away, you hear the boom. When they fall much closer, it's much more trebly. It sounds very different. And it wasn't rattling the windows. I was afraid the windows would get blown in. We have a large sliding glass door out to our porch, which I'm now reconsidering. You heard it bang up against its frame. That's how close the rockets were. We sat together, and also we have an app on our phone that went off at the same time as the sirens, said to shelter in place. No one was getting anywhere near a bomb shelter unless they were already in it. So I don't know how long that went on. According to the news, according to the Lebanese news, we got hit by 30 rockets. I'm sure we got hit by at least 30 rockets. It felt like a lot more. And like I said, I've been under fire. I was a chef, so I'm used to high pressure situations. I was scared. I was really scared. I had done my best, but unless you'd been preparing for this for a month, your best is not nearly enough. It won't have any impact on the outcome. These are rockets. They're being shot at you. Big rockets. Smart rockets. Thanks to the Biden and Obama administration, Iran has plenty of money to invest in these rockets. When it finally died down, it took me a bit to go back to sleep. Like, I was basically going to sleep as the sun came up, and I got a couple hours, and then I had to go to work. Yeah. Now my kids know what rockets sound like. But I want to point out, if you voted for Obama and Biden, I hate you. I really do. They sent money to Iran while Iran was screaming death to Israel. There are no secrets here. When they say they want to kill you, believe them. That money went directly to Iran, to Hamas, to Hezbollah, and you can kind of say, oh, it's Hamas and Hezbollah. I have a YouTuber, actually he's in Substack. I like him a lot. Ryan Macbeth. He knows a lot about military intelligence, served in the military for a long time. And he was talking about, someone said that Iran was intending to invade Israel. And Ryan Macbeth said, oh, they don't have the capability. They're missing the point. Yes, it's very clear. Iran cannot invade Israel. They don't want to. Hezbollah has lots and lots of rockets. They don't have tanks. They don't want to conquer and take over Israel. They want rockets. They want to kill every Jewish man, woman, and child. Hamas, we don't have to say, gee, maybe they didn't really mean it when they said they wanted to genocide the Jews. We saw it in real time on October 7th. And we hear it all the time. They haven't backed down from that 1 inch. And they're the Palestinian supporters. Intifada, revolution. They're not hiding the cards either. From the river to the sea. They're saying explicitly what they want. If the Palestinians had wanted a state, they would have had it already. If Hamas has no nationalist aspirations. They don't want to run a country. They invest all their money, not in infrastructure, not in the people. They invest all their money in trying to kill Jews. They could have a real government who cared about its people right after October 7th. Well, they wouldn't have done October 7th, but if they were under attack, as they were, they have the biggest system of bomb shelters in the world. They're tunnels. All they had to do was open up the tunnels and let the Gazan people in, and no Gazans would have died. All the food went to Hamas. They don't want to give it to the people. They want their people to die. And the people want to die. That's the crazy part. They're not like you and me. If they die, but it means that Israel is one step closer, the Jews are one step closer to being wiped out, they die happy. They're happy when their sons get killed trying to kill Jews. I'm not. I don't want my sons to die killing Palestinians. I want my sons to live. That's how Jews have stayed alive for 2,000 years of exile, by believing in life. So this went on way longer. I was just going to describe what happened that one night. But it's not just one night. October 7th, the attack by Iran, this has all become a part of Jewish history and the Jewish consciousness. That's what we lived through. You hear about Hanukkah, you hear about Purim. 100 years from now, your great-grandchildren, they should be blessed, will be hearing about October 7th. So when they come to you and ask you, gee, what did you do when the evil Hamas rose up against God's people? Gee, what did you do, Grandpa, when Haman came around? Oh, well, you got to understand, Haman was a part of the party that I supported. He was the political party that I supported. and he had the values that I supported of diversity, he was pro-abortion, and he was... It's not about that. It's about death versus life. When your grandchildren come up to you and ask you, gee, what did you do when the evil Hamas, you see, they're in my coloring book. What did you do when they came to kill the Jews? And they were calling death to Israel and death to America. What are you going to say? You're going to say, oh, I voted for Biden. And they say, wow, according to the story, he gave them money. I voted for the Democrats. Oh, you mean the ones who were also calling out death to Israel? The Rashida Tlaibs, the Bernie Sanders, the AOC, all the others who were like, no, we can't let Israel buy the Iron Dome. The Iron Dome is defensive. Yes, if Israel buys the Iron Dome, that is anti-Palestinian because that means they won't be able to kill us as easily. A lot of people are saying, wow, thousands of drones, ICBMs, and rockets, and Israel defended against them all. Isn't the Iron Dome wonderful? Yes, the Iron Dome is wonderful. But you know what's even more wonderful? When I pray to the God of Israel, I know that he protects Israel in ways that other nations cannot even begin to comprehend. That's what I went through the other night. And I just thought I'd share that. I actually shared a lot more than I thought I would. Thank you all. Be blessed. I really appreciate all the prayers that were sent to me. If you don't mind, if you can send a prayer my way, but don't say, and I hope you come to Jesus. It's okay if you do. I won't. But it's just, it's not I think it puts a shadow on our relationship and on our friendship. Thank God you all be blessed from Israel.